Hey, Wonderhussy here at the China Ranch Date Farm down near Tecopa, California, just outside the eastern boundary of Death Valley. It's hot, it's sun-baked, it's blistering, but there's this crazy little oasis down here where I made a video about this. You can check out the entire history if you're interested. There was a Chinaman, a Chinese guy who started a ranch down here back in the 1800s, I think, early 1900s, to feed all the miners in the area. He grew produce and raised livestock, and anyways, some white dude ran him off, stole the property, and now it's called China Ranch, and it's a well-known date farm. You can go in there and get a date shake. It's all in my video. But there's also this really cool little river trail walk you can take. Kind of like it's a 3-mile loop, so it's not really a hike, it's more of a walk, but it goes down into the reason why all this is so green and lush is this Amargosa River flows through here. And the Amargosa River is fascinating. First of all, the word Amargosa, a lot of people will call it Armagosa. It's not Armagosa, it's Amargosa, which means bitter in Spanish. I mean, this is right along the Santa Fe Trail, so there was a lot of Spaniards passing through here, and they named it the Bitter River because I guess the water wasn't very good to drink. But hey, it was better than nothing because you're out here in Death Valley. Any water is a miracle. Sorry about the sun being right behind me, but at the beginning of the hike here, there's a signboard that tells you all about the Amargosa River, which is actually really fascinating because it's a river that runs through the hottest, driest part of the Mojave Desert into Death Valley. The headwaters of this river are in Beatty, Nevada, and it's above ground in Beatty. If you've ever driven through Beatty, you notice there's relatively a lot of trees and vegetation. Well, that's because the Amargosa River is running above ground there. But then it dips down underground. For most of its length, it's underground. And it's connected to all the water in Ash Meadows, which I did a video about that Devil's Hole, that cave that's so deep no one knows how deep it is. And it's full of water that sloshes when there's earthquakes as far away as Mexico, Chile, and even Japan. Well, somehow this whole weird deep underground water system way underneath the desert is connected, and this Amargosa River is the only place where it kind of pops to the surface. So it pops to the surface in Beatty at the headwaters, and then it cruises along underground again and it pops up right here outside Tecopa. And I think it's above ground pretty much from Tecopa all the way to the little town of Shoshone, and then from Shoshone it dips back underground and it comes out in Badwater Basin. The very end of it is in Badwater Basin, which is the lowest elevation point in the U.S. You might have seen it on TV or been there. It's that white salt pan in Death Valley with the little sign on the mountainside saying sea level. You're like 200 and something feet below sea level out there. Well, that's the terminus of this river. This river is a trip, man. And wherever it pops up, it sustains all kinds of desert life forms. You know, like little animals and birds, fish that could never survive without water, have their habitats all along this Amargosa River. Okay, so down here at the date ranch, there's this little Amargosa, or I guess it's called the China Ranch Trail. It's a 3-mile loop that kind of takes you around the river habitat and gives you an idea of all the different wildlife and stuff that lives down here. Anyways, my friends and I want a little bit more than just a 3-mile loop. We want to see a bit more, so we're actually going to go about 7 miles. We're going to hike all the way from here to the brewery in Tecopa, which is about a 7-mile one-way trip. We parked another car at the other end, so we're gonna shuttle back at the end of the hike, but 7 miles one way, and it's gonna be winding all along the banks of the Amargosa River. So we'll be able to check it out where it comes to the surface and see what it looks like. Should be a really interesting hike, and the bonus of ending up at the brewery is we can have an ice cold beer when we're done. Oh wow, look, we barely got to the beginning of the trail and you can already see the river running. This is a trip, man, to see a river running in the desert. Look at this. Beautiful little desert river. I mean, look, it's relatively small. You wouldn't even call this a river. It's more like a stream. But for the desert, this is hugely important to have a water source like this. I'm curious to see the temperature. Oh, it's really cold. I thought it would be kind of like lukewarm because it's in the desert. Doesn't taste bitter. Very cool. So it looks like this trail just sort of follows alongside the riverbed. And I know a lot of people watching this are probably going, you call that a river? That's not a river. I mean, no, compared to the Mississippi, it's totally not a river. But again, for being in basically Death Valley, it's pretty freaking impressive. I mean, imagine you're some miner or pioneer, like somehow you got stranded in Death Valley back in the day and you're like struggling through the desert, just crawling like in the cartoons, crawling through the desert on your hands and knees. Water, water. And then you came to that little creek. Whew, you wouldn't care if it was a creek or a stream. You'd just be happy that there was water. Wow, this trail is friggin' spectacular. Can't believe I've lived here so many years and I've never bothered to take this trail. Usually I just go down to the friggin' date ranch and get a date shake and call it a day. But this is definitely worth doing. I mean, you can see it's a real easy trail. I'm doing it in my flip-flops. Apparently there's a trail all the way to Tecopa, so I won't have to worry about bushwhacking or anything. But this trail winds through these really interesting mud hills. And there's some old ruins alongside the trail too. Like this looks like the wreckage of some old Model T or something. And then over there, it's like ruins of another busted old car. Now, one thing you gotta be mindful of if you do decide to hike this trail is, it's the desert. It's blazing hot. And despite it being alongside a little creek, well, the creek isn't always running right by the trail, so you really gotta make sure you bring drinking water, because I think it's up to like 100, I think Death Valley, the highest temperature recorded was like 135 degrees one year. Now, today is October 1st, first day of October, so it's really nice. I think the temperature is like 70. So if you want to do this hike, I definitely recommend spring or fall. It gets real cold out here in winter, but you could do it in winter too. Just bundle up. Uh-oh, we just came to a sign. Looks like we got a choice. We can go to the waterfall or Tecopa to the right, or into the Kingston Wilderness to the left. Well, we're gonna go to Tecopa, we've already decided, but if you haven't decided, there's a little sign helping you make your decision. And then there's also this really cool informative sign telling you about the Amargosa River, the Amargosa Basin, all the weird little species that live here and nowhere else, like this Bell's vireo, some kind of bird, vireo, I don't know how you pronounce that. The Amargosa vole, aw, little vole, so cute. And the Amargosa pupfish, just like the pupfish that live in the Devil's Hole. These are like the rarest friggin' fish on earth, and some of them live out here in this river. I'm doing this hike with a group of 4 other friends, including Larry. Larry's up ahead, my sister, some other friends of ours. We're all camping up at Tecopa Hot Springs. We've been camped there for, a few days. We're gonna stay another couple days after this. It's just a great place to camp because there's so many cool explorations you can do in the area. You know, there's a lot of old abandoned buildings, a lot of natural beauty, sand dunes, mines. This place is like a playground if you're into desert exploration. I can't recommend it enough. Tecopa, California. Check it out. It's named after this really cool Indian chief, Chief Tecopa. He was I think he was a Shoshone Indian chief, Paiute Shoshone, back around the late early 1900s. And if you look at pictures of him, he used to go into battle wearing a band leader's jacket, like Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band type jacket. I don't know where he got it, but man, he looks like he was a very interesting person. Anyways, yeah, look at this landscape on this hike. It's like hiking on Tatooine. It's a trip. All those low mud hills off to the right, and then off to the left, that's the Amargosa River basin. That's why you can see all the green bushes. Oh, look, another interesting thing about following this river, I don't know if this is an old trash heap or what, but the river also parallels the old Tonopah and Tidewater T&T Railroad bed. The railroad's long gone, but the railroad bed is still visible. And a lot of the junk that, well, people who lived and worked alongside the railroad left behind. So there's a lot of fun stuff to poke through. Oh wow, so speaking of ruins, look at this that we're coming up on. It looks like the remains of an old building. This should be pretty cool. All right, well, according to this information sign, this old building was built in 1903, and it was maybe the assay office for the miners. Oh, there goes Larry. But look how cool this is. I mean, it's collapsing, but it doesn't say not to go in. It's not closed off, but look at the wood floor is still in good shape. These friggin' walls, look how thick they were. I bet that's adobe made out of the mud here. Let's see. I mean, they just had to use whatever materials they had, and they sure didn't have trees out here. Huh. Wow, look at the construction of this old cabin. This is a trip. I mean, it's solidly constructed. Here was the back door. Oh, wow, look, it goes into onto the side of this mud hill. Must have been like a, oh look, it's like their, what do you call that? Like a root cellar. It's probably a lot cooler in here. Well, a little bit cooler. Some shelves to store all their food and canned stuff. Wow, I mean, this, I guess, objectively speaking, this is kind of a depressing life to, like, store your food in a mud cave and build your house out of mud bricks. I'm sure there was probably some fine ladies from back east that were dragged out here by their husbands who were absolutely horrified. But I actually think it's really cool. I was just talking to my sister about how cool this hike is already. We've only been like a half mile into it, and there's so much history and so much nature, and then all this weird desert stuff. It's got like a little bit of everything. Look at the view behind me. We're ascending out of the little river valley. Wow, see what I mean? Like at sunset or when the light's lower, all the shapes and shadows in that formation there would be amazing. And all the colors in this face, whew. Okay, so there's all these little spurs you can take on off the main trail, and it makes it kind of confusing. But this one looks like it leads right down to the, well, river bed. I don't know if there's any river running right now. Let's see if there's any water standing at all here. It's the end of the summer. It's hot, it's dry. Will there be any trickle of water at this portion at all? Oh, it doesn't look like it. Yeah, it's dry as a bone right now. Look here on this side, you can see the crumbling mud stuff on the banks, but then you see all these roots from these bushes hanging over the side. Like, I guess there was some water down here at one time. Their poor thirsty little roots hanging down. Give me water, water. And then you see on the bottom, it's just all like parched and dry and cracked. But you know what? Even just this shade from these hanging gardens would be welcome. If you were trapped out here, you know, you could cruise back here into this shady little pocket where it looks like there was a little bit of water collected up until fairly recently, but it's all dried up now. Wow, this hike is so cool. So we came up on top of this kind of bluff, and there's this informational sign or informative sign that tells you a little bit about this river trail. So apparently, besides being used by Native Americans and miners, it was also part of the old Spanish Trail. It says over here that the very first commercial caravan party from New Mexico to the San Gabriel Mission in California followed the old Spanish Trail, and it came right through this canyon in front of us in 1829. Can you imagine? Look at this. I mean, if you were in a wagon train coming west, crossing friggin' Death Valley, this would be like a true oasis. And then years later, during the borax mining years, the Tonopah and Tidewater T&T Railroad was built, and that's the railroad grade. Look, the trail follows the railroad grade, and you can see it perfectly on that berm. And you can see down here below me the kind of wooden ruins of, well, something related to the T&T Railroad, probably. You know, off in the distance there's that thing too. Who knows, man? All kind of rail stops. This railroad went all the way from Ludlow in the Mojave Preserve to Beatty, Nevada, headwaters of the Amargosa River. You can see here some of the old railroad ties, I think. I mean, right? Isn't that what that is? Dang. Going off all the way to Beatty, and you can see remnants of it all over the place, even today. But the trail that we're following, there's a little sign here, is going down here, back along the riverbed. Okay, now we've come down off of the railroad bed, and we're back down by the riverbed. And down here, it looks like there's quite a bit of water in it. I mean, look how lush it is down here. I think there's some kind of spur hike we can take that goes into that slot canyon there. That'd be interesting to check out, but let's go look at the river up close. Wow, look at this water. It's pretty deep here. It's amazing. Imagine all kinds of wildlife must live in here. It's hiding out now because it's too hot probably, but well, you can see there's some dragonflies, beautiful blue dragonflies buzzing around. And oh, you can see little tiny fish swimming in here. I wonder if those are Amargosa pupfish. It's a pretty good flow. You know, the only downside to hiking out here is this. On my leg, I don't know if you can see that. They have these real nasty horseflies out here, and they bite you, and they leave a welt. And look, you can even flick them and they won't leave. They're pretty hardcore. Like, go away. See? Like, they are sucking blood. They are not trying to leave. So you really got to be aggressive with them. Well, either that or just wear long pants. Stay covered up. All right, well, unfortunately, we weren't able to figure out a way to cross the river to get to that slot canyon. So I'm not sure if there used to be a trail and I got washed out or what the deal is. But we're just going to keep on hiking ahead following the old T&T Railroad bed. Pretty easy to follow. And it'll lead us right into Tecopa, right by the brewery. Okay, the trail just dropped down again into the riverbed, and our friend up there hiked ahead of us, and he said the trail leads to a little swimming hole with a waterfall. This is the waterfall they were talking about on that sign. I can't wait to see it. Oh wow, look at this. It's like a little oasis down here. Holy moly, look at this swimming hole in the desert. This is unbelievable. This is the middle of the friggin' Mojave Desert by Death Valley, you guys. Okay, wow, it feels like I'm in the friggin' Rocky Mountains or the Eastern Sierra, standing right here alongside this river. I thought that was the waterfall, but look at this. Look at this lagoon. Oh my gosh, what is this? There's waterfalls everywhere. Okay, I gotta take a dip in this river. It's too nice to pass up. Wowee! This is without question one of the most bizarre and amazing things I've ever seen in the desert. And what's really amazing about it to me is that the flow is so friggin' heavy. I mean, look at that. That's a lot of water coming down this waterfall. And then I guess it just kind of peters out into that marsh and goes underground again, because remember when we shot the channel earlier, it was totally dry. Okay, wow, we hiked out of the swimming hole by the waterfall, and you'd never know it was there. Can't hear it, can't see it. All you see is a bunch of reeds in the middle of this sun-baked, arid desert. Never in a million years would I think there was a tropical waterfall like that in this friggin' environment. Man, I could have stayed in that watering hole all day. That was incredible. But this hike is 7 miles long. I think we've only gone like 1.5 miles, so we got to pick up the pace a little bit. Okay, I guess the trail doesn't follow the railroad bed. For a lot of it, you're actually down here right next to the river, and it's really neat. I mean, these trees here, I think these might be tamarisk trees. These are those invasive ones they're trying to get rid of. And yeah, they're really bad for the environment, but gosh, they sure do provide some nice shade. I mean, look how cool this trail is. Got this weird knobbly bluff on one side, that mud stuff, and they got trees on the other side. And then the trail itself is this dried out lake bed. Oh, there's my shadow. Hi. But it's a really neat trail. It feels like you're on a ride at Disneyland or something. There's my sister and our friend. You can see this trail just opened up, and now we're walking through this really open desert area just below this amazing escarpment. I mean, these shapes are, gosh, I almost feel like I'm in a cathedral. Or you know what it kind of reminds me of? Remember those giant, like, Tibetan Buddhist figures that were in, like, Afghanistan, I think? And the friggin' Taliban blew them up? I don't know. I feel like I saw pictures of them, and it kind of looked similar to this. I mean, this landscape might as well be in Afghanistan, but a little in secret, it's only 1.5 hours outside Las Vegas. Whew. Finally got out of those mesquite thickets. Ugh, those things were nasty, man. Not only did they tear out my hair, pricked my finger, scratched my leg. Man, those things are gnarly. I mean, say what you will about the tamarisk and being an invasive species and drinking up all the water. At least it doesn't try to shank you when you're walking by. Oh, look, we can actually see the brewery. Woo! That's where we're going, in the far distance. Almost there, guys. Good job. All right, we're coming into the outskirts of Tecopa. You can see the brewery dead ahead. That's where Larry's car is parked. My car's back at the date ranch. So after we go in there and have a quick beer, Larry and I are gonna drive back and get my car. And then we'll shuttle everyone to our final destination. Woo! We made it to the brewery. This is a Death Valley Brewing Company. And it is a really cool little brewery. Check this out. It's a really old building. I don't know how old it is, but they've turned it into this awesome brewery. It's like a really comfortable place to play pool, hang out, play music, and have a beer. So you can actually do this hike 2 different ways. We started at the date ranch and ended up here because we want to have a brewski. But if you don't drink, you could always start your hike here and hike to the date ranch and finish up with a delicious date shake. So no matter which way you do this hike, it's a winner.
This is why I think
I'm actually not a beer drinker. This is hard cider, but it's cold and it's delicious. Cheers, Larry.
Awesome hike.
Did you like it?
Awesome.
What was your favorite part?
The waterfall. Definitely the waterfall.
That waterfall was amazing.
The best hike I've ever taken in Death Valley.
Well, enjoy your beer, then we'll go get my car, and then we have one more stop to make before this day is over.
One more? What could that be?
All right, the last thing to do to celebrate the successful completion of that hike is go for a relaxing soak in the Tecopa Hot Spring. This is one of my all-time favorite hot springs because it's this beautiful pond. Look how clear it is. In the middle of this crazy lunar landscape. Slip out of my robe. All right, now I'm ready to go soak. Feels so amazing. All my aches and pains, all those mesquite branch scrapes and cuts. It's all worth it. It's a great hike, and this is the perfect way to end it.